Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode. Today we are live at Retail Technology Show here in London. This is April 26th, and my first guest is Martin Bailie. Martin, thanks for agreeing with this interview. How is the show so far for you?
Superb. It's literally in the morning, and it's absolutely buzzing down there. They're expecting 8,000 visitors today, so that's going to be pretty special, but it's certainly lively today already.
Yeah, I would love to make the introduction of your career to the audience, but I know that you can do it much better than me, even though because it's long. How was your journey? Why you're here?
Yeah, so look, I am 3 decades of food and fashion retailer, big box generally, extremely privileged to work for the likes of Tesco's, Lidl in particular, which was half my career, Primark, and then back into Tesco's and Tata, the joint venture. So I've been blessed enough to be around the world, 3 continents leading, and being successful with great teams and great people as well. So very lucky to be that retailer. And since returning from Asia, I've started up my own advisory firm, MWB Advisory Limited, and it's given me the opportunity to branch out my network and to speak to such amazing CEOs. We all went through a lot in the last 3 years. And we're coming out the other end. So I'm very lucky and very blessed.
Well, it seems like there's too much happening, right? Like it's never smooth.
Retail is always like that anyway. Fast forward COVID, fast forward perma-crisis that we're seeing just now globally. It's a different beast, retail, and change is a non-negotiable.
And you said you work in 3 continents. Is there any major difference that you can tell about?
Oh yeah, colossal differences. Leading in India, in particular with the Tata family, which are an unbelievable organization. But COVID was a different X factor, let's just say. And the change in the development in a country that size, officially the largest country in the world, surpassing China only the last couple of months. But yeah, huge complexity, and going from a single channel immediately to omnipresence was a very fast track journey. And it's a very, very fragmented market, but an unbelievable market and so dynamic, actually going to be surpassing America in terms of GDP.
I saw a lot of this news. India became the highlight of every new in the recent years.
By 2024, they reckon retail consumerism will be 1.1 trillion. And that's from 2019, 690 billion. So it's a huge jump. So very exciting over there. Europe obviously went through the same COVID challenges like everybody else. So probably more plateauing, but very mature from a retailing stance point of view. So we're able to cope with the challenges, especially with the war in Ukraine. And then America, again, very dynamic, a massive market. And has had growth up to 4%, and the prediction is also a CAGR of 4%, which will be exciting. Totally different landscapes, similar journeys with similar challenges: recession, currency, perma-crisis, as I mentioned earlier on. It's more expensive to do business in retail at the moment. So it's managing all of those things, but very, very different, very, very unique. But India was a very, very special time, if I can be honest with you.
Of course, and like just a few professionals have the chance to have this view that you had.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, so after 20 odd years in modern retail, as we would call it in India, it's still quite a youthful term. It's only about 15 years old, modern trade. It's still traditional trade over there, 90% consumption. But actually being able to go through that change, that development, the digitalization, as I said, from single channel to omnipresence, which is an almighty leap. But none of us had any other choice. And I think probably galvanized in every single country. There was a very similar COVID story, but definitely 100x with the challenges in India. But again, a special place. So very, very blessed to be part of that journey in India, definitely.
Yeah, and Apple just opened a huge store in India, and it seems like major retailers are doing the same now. How do you see the future of retail? You have so much experience.
Yeah, so look, as I'd said before, we're moving into a very omnipresence retailing. So again, single channel, multi-channel, which still was a lot of retailers before COVID hit, and then omni-channel, and then into omnipresence where you're fully in an ecosystem. And there's only, if you think of the top 10 retailers globally, 5 of them already do omnipresence and an ecosystem. So the likes of Kruger, Amazon, Lidl, the Schwarz Group, to name a few. Walmart would be another one. Costco would be the 5th one, just off the top of my head. So that's something that's very exciting, because a lot of retailers are now realizing it's not just about selling product. There's other things that they have to do to help the model, especially a modern model, as the world is getting more expensive as well. Immersive retail, always exciting. AR, VR, the metaverse, etc. That's definitely in the future, without a shadow of a doubt. But the immersive experience and the customer experience being the key point here. A lot of retailers would have said I was customer centric, but actually there's a new level now. If you look at the likes of Nike, I know not a food retailer, but Nike is already going into deep EI analytics to go and talk about the emotions of the consumer. That's the level of how they want to know them as well. And if you think about being connected and being relevant across the board, the retailers have to be smarter. There's smart cities in the world that are getting bigger, like Dubai is an obvious one, but that then transcends into smart retail, smart markets, smart supply chain, smart merchandising, and it's about using technology. That's why we're here, of course. It's about using technology to advance the customer experience. But when I say that, it's the internal customer, it's our colleagues, because again, it's a ways of working, it's digital transformation, as well as the actual customer. It's that customer journey that you have to really nail down, and being smarter and using blockchain and using AI and using any of the technologies that are out there that can support them, like deep analytics in particular. Big data was feared upon pre-COVID. It's now an essential part, but it's using the data correctly. So in its simplest forms, we got to be smarter, immersive, omnipresent, and we need to be emotionally connected. That's probably the future of retail that I foresee. And I think when you do any research out there, very similar as well. It's the journey of getting there is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, and that brings me to another question, actually. For all this future that we are seeing, that you just mentioned, and all the technologies we're seeing here at the show today, you are very well connected with all the C-level executives. What should be the decision-making process for this future?
Look, you got to bear in mind, and maybe bringing that back a step, the world in the future is going to change. You talked about India being the largest country in the world. That won't stop. They'll never be surpassed. Unlikely. South Africa will quadruple by 2040 in terms of size. That is the modeling that's out there in terms of research. So you're talking in 2040 or 2050, you're talking nearly 10 billion inhabitants. Okay, in 2030 or 2035, just coming into 9 billion inhabitants. If you do the modeling of today's consumption, technically you need 1.5 planets. Now, we can't do 1.5 planets, so how is consumerism going to change? How is the decision-making, supply chain, product development, how we retail, how we buy, how we sell, and also how we consume as individuals? That is all already changing. And you've seen a lot of trends that's coming through. That won't stop. And the important thing to say is the CEOs have got all of this in terms of today's challenges. And I mentioned them earlier on about potential recession, about perma-crisis in general, inflation in the UK 17% and subsiding slightly, but the world is still getting more expensive, energy, etc. All these things we already know.
I know very well.
So for me, it's important that the CEO has already invested heavily in the back end, in their supply chain. If you look at the top 10 retailers, 8 of them are food retailers, all of which have spent a lot of money in infrastructure. Second of all, it is being the technology advancements. And again, the reason why we're here, and I'm excited, this is the first day. I haven't been able to have a proper look around, but I'm really looking forward to that as well. So I would say, look, the investment in technology is there. Building a strong digital presence for a CEO, all my peers that I speak to within my network, and I am very blessed with that, they all say digital, it's digital first or it's digital transformation. But the key thing, it's the embracement of that. Digital transformation or digital innovation is only ever embedded when you have the right culture. Because any transformation, as you and I know, regardless what you call it, is actually ways of working, which is cultural transformation. So I think every one of the strong CEOs that I speak to, we're already invested in technology, in supply chain, in their people. embracing sustainability. As I said, we don't have 1.5 planets. So how do we do that better? How do we work better? How do we consume better? How do we make the right choices for the consumer of the future? The new generations aren't like, I'll be present here, unlike my generation. So there's different ways that they want to do, there's different values that they have, there's different health trends that they have already embedded, and they will be the decision makers in literally 5 to 10 years time.
I feel
so
like,
change has to happen.
Yeah, any retailer, you can never rest, right? You always have to learn. There's
Constantly.
always something new that happens, something new that pops in retail that we have always to take care of.
Yeah, but back to one of my points earlier on, it's the customer experience, the internal customer and the external customer. If that is your core belief and part of your DNA, everything that you must do to transform, let it be digital, let it be cultural, let it be process, let it be system, let it be people, all links into the customer experience. And if that is seamless, even for the internal customer, you've now got the right people adding the right value to the right customer. And when I say customer, it could be business partner, could be supplier, could be the actual customer, could be our colleagues in the DC, our colleagues on the shop floor. It's important to be that obsessed about the customer experience. And probably the number one thing out of everything I've just said in terms of being a CEO today, that's the focus, that's the nut you need to crack. And it's not an easy thing, because not a lot of companies have a lot of cash these days because of COVID drained a lot of the P&L. So the transformation costs money. So how do you do it, and which priority? Being a CEO is not easy, and transformation is definitely not easy, but unbelievably worth it in the future. The future undoubtedly is being smarter, being immersive, being omnipresent, and having an ecosystem within your brand that just doesn't sell product. It sells experience, it sells beliefs, it sells values, and that's what the next generation and the generation after that want to see and will have loyalty. Because today, the race is entirely about ensuring that you shop the most with me. And so do they, and so do they. So right now, if you do any research in any of the countries with the likes of Kantar, they'll talk about switching data. Loyalty is a big thing, but everything I've just mentioned between investment in technology, stronger digital presence, the embracement of sustainability, and then the focus on the customer, that's where the loyalty is going to come in the future. Because again, the future is not our generations, it's the generations to come.
Nice. I would love to keep talking. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to ask the last question.
Yep.
Which technologies are you excited about?
So my apologies, maybe somewhat boring, but so passionate, as you could probably tell, the ESG factor. And back to the 1.5 planets, it is a non-negotiable responsibility of all retailers, not just food, although food's a big footprint, fashion's also a big print. Using technology, using advancements, using things I've not even seen. I'll guarantee you, I'll be running around here very excited.
We were together at Euroshop and we saw a lot of sustainability.
But this is even
efforts,
specialized, so I'm really looking forward to it. But it's actually the advancements of everything I've mentioned, from CEO right down to colleagues, important, by the way, making a difference for the community, for themselves, their families, and it is a values-driven community that we will have in the future more than ever before, and that's the beliefs of the next generations. But we don't have an opportunity not to change consumerism, but let's change it in the right way. Use AI, use technology, use blockchain, AR, VR, everything. Use it as to the best abilities to ensure that the ESG targets globally, internally, corporately, and just human belief is important for me. So it might be, my apologies, somewhat of a simple answer, but it's so important in my view. And the other ones is retail media. You had written an article in retail media. If you do any research, let's use the US as a market. It's currently 16 billion turnover. It's going to double by 2024 in terms of retail media. But there's a hesitance out there, actually on all the continents in terms of retailers embracing it. There's some leaders out there, Walmart, Tesco's, are doing it internally. It's another value chain, but it's also an exciting part if you get the analytics right and the return data in terms of customer behavior. That's the sweet spot for a consumer. But if you talk about an additional revenue stream for any retailer, they'll bite your hand off for it. So retail media, I think there's a hesitance.
And a revenue stream with a super high margin.
Super high margin. If you get the return data analytics, the customer behavior, which is not an easy thing to do and it's not been cracked yet, But if you get that right, who doesn't want a part of, and just use America, 20, 30 billion in the next 2 years as an additional revenue stream? Absolutely. It's all within part of the digital transformation and journey, and it's all being part of omnipresent. So it is the journey that retailers shouldn't be hesitant. I just don't think we've cracked the full benefits that you and I believe in, hence it's my second answer to your question. But I think that's an exciting part, and it's such a quick win in my view, and it's part of the digital journey anyway.
Awesome. Martin, thank you so much
No,
for
you're
taking
welcome.
the time
Thank
to
you for
talk to
having me.
us.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.